Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel, proudly in association with sharpbetting.co.uk. I'm delighted to be joined with Danny tonight as we're in reaction mode as Harlem Eubank has just stopped Tyrone McKenna in Brighton after, as we said, Danny, pure one-way traffic from the third round onwards. Danny, like I say, thank you for joining me. First off, what's your initial reaction to that? Because obviously the first couple of rounds, not much happened. And from then on, it was pretty much Harlem Eubank's fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. McKenna we had anticipated before the fight he'd come in and try and make it a fight as opposed to a boxing match. But to my surprise, he elected to box with Harlem Eubank, which, as you say, led to fairly uneventful first two, 3 rounds. But once Harlem Eubank started landing those body shots, I mean, McKenna's even said himself, I've seen in interviews, I've got a glass body, and he was so wary of the body shots landing that he would almost give up the head so he could protect his body, which led to the knockdown. Was it in the fourth round, I think, fourth, fifth round? And yeah, Harlem was just the younger, fresher, stronger, fitter fighter, and McKenna was never really in it. I mean, I gave him a share of the first round just because nothing happened. He had a couple of rounds where he was competitive, and you could maybe make a case from winning one
Mhm.
round, but never looked like winning the fight. Harlem never looked troubled by anything McKenna was offering. Obviously, McKenna's best day is well past him now, you'd have to say, but good performance from Harlem. Certainly the best I've seen him look. Making a statement like that, stop McKenna's, no mean feat. Obviously, Lewis Crocker couldn't get McKenna out of there. Plenty of other good fighters haven't. So, good night's work for the home fighter.
Yeah, I have to agree with pretty much everything you said there. In the final predictions, I thought Tyrone McKenna could be a little bit of a nightmare for Eubanks. I expected him to come and make it a fight. And then the first couple of rounds where Tyrone McKenna's fainting with his hands down nice and low, no guard, it shocked me. And then he made it easy, like you say, once Harlem Eubank found that uppercut, started working the body, the writing was on the wall, and it's a good stoppage from the referee there. He stopped him getting knocked down again. He stopped him taking more damage. Don't normally get to say that very often on these videos praising referees, but there's always a first. But sort of a question for both men, really. Obviously, we sort of said on the final predictions, myself and Elliot Grigg, is it last chance saloon at a decent level for Tyrone McKenna? And then what next for Harlem Eubank? I think Harlem Eubank, like you say, he's boxed as well as he can possibly box in that scenario. There's always the Adam Azim face off that gets mentioned. So, sort of, do you think that's it for Tyrone McKenna? And where do you see Harlem Eubank going next?
I imagine that's the end of the road for Tyrone McKenna. Obviously, he announced his retirement after the defeat to Lewis Crocker. I think he said
Mhm.
something similar after the loss to Mamoon in the rematch. And then I think that win over Dil Moran, he went away to Germany for that camp and maybe give him a new lease of life. And without being disrespectful, maybe a bit of false confidence. I mean, how
Yeah.
good a win was that really? We saw Dil Moran also get bowled over and around by Florian Marku. So I think it'll be a bit of a reality check for Tyrone and where he's at. And, he's a smart enough fella. There's stuff he can do outside of the ring. And you would like to think that's the last we'll see of him. In terms of Harlem, yeah, great win, as we said at the start. I think a British title fight against Conor Walker, a welterweight. I think that's a fantastic fight. I think that'd be a really entertaining fight. Obviously, Conor Walker never in a bad fight himself, and I think the pressure he brings, forcing the action. Obviously, Harlem can sort of do it both ways. I think that'd be a really good fight. I think it's a winnable fight too for Harlem Eubank. Aside from that, I mean, it is going to be sort of domestic level, you would think. I don't think names like Lewis Ritson don't really do much for me. We obviously saw him go quite a few rounds with, your Conor Walkers, your Paddy Donovans. But, Harlem with the Eubank name, he's got the backing of Channel 5 and Wasserman. He's one of their sort of leading lights. I'm sure, his next fight, be that this summer, will be a decent name. And the one for me that does stand out is Conor Walker.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Looking through the rankings, and obviously we named a few different fighters, but I think Conor Walker's an interesting proposition for any fighter, especially around the British level, because you know exactly what he's bringing to the table. You know he's going to try and make it a fight. So it's always a case of does Harlem Eubank stand and try and trade, or does he box on the back foot and obviously let Conor Walker try and put the pressure on? That's the British title level fight. How far do you think Harlem Eubank can go, Danny? Because obviously he's got the Eubank name. Chris Eubank Senior sat ringside. As you say, he's got the backing of Wasserman. Channel 5 is one of their sort of stable stars in a sense. How far do you think he can go? Because he can evidently compete at British level. Can he go to European level? Can he potentially push on any higher?
Time will tell, I suppose. I mean, he does get a lot of criticism, Harlem, and I'm not excluding myself from that. And there have been a couple of, say, flat performances or shaky moments, but he's never really come close to losing a fight. And there are a lot of fighters who will box to the level of their opposition, and he clearly does have good hand speed, decent punch power, good fitness. I mean, we've not really seen him pushed over 10, 12 rounds, really, so maybe there are still questions over that. But I think world champion, maybe pushing it, depending on the lay of the land, who's going to be holding those belts at
Mhm.
welterweight. It's not going to be, Boots Ennis and the likes will have well moved up by then. Could he beat Paddy Donovan? You'd make Donovan a favourite, probably, but it's not a foregone conclusion. So, he won't be, and the people around him won't be having any limitations on where he can go. It just all depends. We have these conversations about can he be a world champion? I mean, there's varying different degrees of difficulty levels in world title fights. So we've definitely seen worse world champions than Harlem
Mhm.
Eubank, put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's the key factor there, really. How far can he go? We've definitely seen worse world champions. I don't necessarily think he can get there myself, but would I back him against Conor Walker? I have to agree. I've been quite heavily critical of Harlem Eubank, but I think that's probably a case of as well of we need to see him in with better opposition. You can only judge off what you've seen so far, and we haven't really seen him tested. Conor Walker's a good level fight. If he comes through that with flying colours, then it's okay. He's had it in his locker that he can fight at a higher level and we move forward from there. But Danny, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It wasn't the most entertaining fight for sort of 9 minutes or so, and then when Harlem Eubank started to take over, it made it a much more enjoyable watch. But let us know down below in the comments, guys, who you think Harlem Eubank should face next. Do you want to see him in with Conor Walker, or do you want to see him in with some bigger names? Can he step up to world level? As I say, let us know down below in the comments. Like, subscribe, and Danny, thank you once again for joining me tonight.